In the latest wave of LEGO Dream sets, many of the villains are evil versions of the main characters. So, in this video, I'm gonna go through and compare them all and see if the original good versions of the characters or the new evil versions are better. A huge thank you to LEGO for gifting me the sets that these minifigures come in. If you want to see full reviews, I'll have a playlist linked in the description and the pinned comment. But now, let's start things off by taking a look at the main character of the series, Matteo, and his evil doppelganger, Madteo. Now, Matteo's the only character whose evil version is based off of his Season 2 design. As we'll see in just a moment, all the other characters are based off their Season 1 version, but I'm really happy they decided to do this with him, because in general, I just think it looks better. Right off the bat, there's a lot of very obvious differences you can see. The biggest thing is the color scheme. Matteo's hair is brown, Madteo's hair is black. Matteo's skin is yellow, and all the doppelgangers have white skin instead. Matteo has a white shirt with a blue vest on top, Matteo has a purple shirt with a gray vest on top. And that gray on the vest actually continues into Matteo's pants, and then he has black shoes. But normal Matteo's a little bit more colorful because he brings some olive green over in the pants, and then uses white for the shoes. Now, Matteo is an artist, so you can see on the side of his pants he has like some crayons or some markers or something, and that strap continues all the way around to the other side. But on Madteo, they swapped that out for like little spray paint cans, I guess because graffiti would be a more evil form of art. And you can see that reflected in more of the pants design too, because on Matteo, his pants are mostly clean. There's this little metallic silver splotch on the side, and I'm not sure exactly what that's meant to be. But you can see Matteo's pants are covered in splotches of magenta paint, which you can assume comes from the spray paint cans. The shoes are of course a very similar design aside from colors, but you can see there is a little logo on the shoes, which you can assume would be the shoes brand. That's another part of the design that was changed between these two. The logo on Matteo's shoes has a lot more squiggles, and it's just a lot more intense and over the top. It kind of reminds me of those knockoff shoes that you'll see sometimes where it has a brand's logo on it, but it's not exactly the same to like keep it legally distinct. So I think that's a very funny idea that the evil version of Matteo wears knockoff shoes. And then finally on the legs, the weirdest difference is Matteo's legs are dual molded, but Matteo's legs are not. It's not the end of the world because Matteo's legs still look great, but it's just a little bit of a strange inconsistency, especially because the printing makes it look like he has dual molded legs from the front. Taking off their vests to show you the full torso prints, you can see they have a very similar graphic on their undershirt, though Matteo of course has a picture of Z-Blob with like this orange aura around it, while Madteo has a picture of Doom Blob with like a magenta aura around it. Then they're both wearing this flannel vest, and again aside from the color they're very similar. However, you can see on Madteo it's a little tattered and torn up, there's a few little rips in it, while Matteo's kept it in much better condition. Additionally, you can see a few pins on Matteo's shirt. He's got a little one of Z-Blob, this like orangish, coralish little pin right here, and then this little one that's like the Dream Chasers hourglass logo. While on Matteo, he keeps the little pink one, though now it's a little more magenta. However, the Z-Blob has been swapped out for a yellow eye, similar to what we saw in the first LEGO Dreamzzz wave, and the Dream Chaser symbol has been swapped out for the Neverwitch's symbol, who's of course the character who created all the evil doppelgangers. Face prints, obviously, expressions are quite different, but Matteo has like Z-Blob power on one side of his face, and on Madteo that's been replaced with the same makeup that the Neverwitch wears. And Matteo has two smiling faces, while Madteo has one happy and one angry. And then one final thing, their accessory. In their hands they hold the normal version of Z-Blob and the normal version of Doom Blob. And these are just like little LEGO light pieces with eyes printed on them. But I think they both look really good. Z-Blob's really cute with just the two tiny little eyes, and I love how intense Doom Blob looks despite just being a blob in his hand. Overall, between the two Matteo versions, I think I prefer the non-evil version, but these are both very good, like easily some of the best figures of the wave. And between the two Z-Blobs, honestly, I think I prefer Doom Blob. His eyes are just more intense and more interesting. Next up, we have Izzie and her evil counterpart, Izzie. As I said, Matteo is the only Season 2 variant. This is the Season 1 version of Izzie, and that's what Izzie's based on. Again, right off the bat, colors are a big difference, and I think the biggest color difference is honestly in the hair. On the original Izzie, it's this really cool like dual molding of transparent sparkly light blue with transparent sparkly lavender, and it's a super unique hairpiece. Like there is nothing else like that in the LEGO catalog. But then on Izzie, it's obviously the same part, but it's just regular trans pink dual molded with solid black. So despite being the same piece, these two hair pieces look very different just because of the colors used. I think the solid black, especially on Izzie, is very striking, and I absolutely love how it looks, though both are quite good. The armor pieces are different too. Izzie of course uses the Praetorian Guard armor from LEGO Star Wars, though in lavender. However, Izzie has an all-new armor piece for this wave, and all the doppelgangers except for Matteo also use this part, which we'll see. And I think this is interesting. It's a very weird piece because it's quite small. Usually LEGO armor pieces are very like big and pronounced, and this like it adds some nice extra detail to the figure, but it doesn't really feel like it changes too much. So that could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I will say like a dark version of the Praetorian Guard armor would have looked really cool here, but this works as well and obviously fits with the color scheme. And then also it's like asymmetrical and it's like dripping down the torso. It does work for evil corrupted doppelgangers. It's just a very interesting part design. I am going to take that off for now though so you can better see her torso, and here's how the two look side by side. Of course there's a huge difference in the colors, with Izzie having magenta it in black, and then yellow for detailing. While Izzie has bright orange and white, and then she uses like a little bit of lavender for detailing, and I guess that's coral in the center right there. And then there's also metallic silver sparkles in the corner, and that's actually present on Dizzy too. The texture on her armor is actually changed between the two. She's got little triangles in her normal form, while they're turned into diamonds like the Neverwitch uses on the evil version, and that's actually really clever. I didn't notice that at first. And just like with Matteo, the Dream Chaser's hourglass logo has been swapped out for the Neverwitch's symbol. And honestly, while I love this Izzie figure, I have to say, I think I prefer the torso and Dizzy. The colors are just a lot more striking. While this is very fun and fantastical, this stands out a lot more, and I love the yellow on top of the magenta. Both of these figures have waist capes, which we could see a little bit better if I turn them around. However, Izzie has a pretty standard looking waist cape, it's got a little point at the end, but Dizzy has like this very tattered waist cape instead, which is reminiscent of the printing that we just saw on Matteo. And that gives this figure such a cool look. I love that a waist cape was included at all, but the little rips and tears make her extra detailed. And you can see that carries over in the printing too, because you can see original Izzie has like a little skirt print that comes down, and that's on Dizzy too, but again the ends are tattered. It's like it was torn off. And then Izzie here does have dual-molded legs, which Dizzy does not. However, I think that's perfectly fine. Dizzy's design still looks great. And aside from no dual molding, the look of the shoes is very similar. There's little Neverwitch symbols on Dizzy that aren't on Izzie. It's cool that they added some extra detail that's not on the original minifigure. Turning these two around, there's a look at the back torso prints too. Again, same design aesthetic as the front. And while I love how Izzie looks, again, I think Dizzy pulls ahead. Some very minor details. It looks like there's buttons up here and one of them's falling off of Dizzy while it's still on Izzie. And there seems to be little tears in the belt on Dizzy too, which again, that's not present on this figure. There's a little tear in the belt on the front too that I didn't notice before. And then face prints, you can see Izzie has like this wide happy smile, while Dizzy has a much more sinister smile, and then Izzie has like this eyes closed smiling face, while Dizzy has this angry expression. I will say I definitely prefer the original Izzie expressions. There's just a lot more personality to them, but for a doppelganger I think that's fine. This is still a good enough face print, but probably one of the weaker ones of the wave. But overall, between these two minifigures, I think overall I do prefer the new Dizzy minifigure. Izzie was one of my favorites of the first wave, but this figure feels like they took her design and improved upon it. The only things I'd change are maybe making the armor match a little bit more, and maybe something on the face print, and obviously dual molding would have been nice even if it wasn't needed. But yeah, the fact that the waist cape's still here and it's tattered, the hairpiece looks awesome, and the colors are great. Dizzy just feels like the clear winner to me. Here are the next two minifigures. We have Logan and we have Dogan. Dogan does have that same armor piece that we just looked at on Izzie. However, again, I'm going to remove it so we can have a better comparison between these two. And these two might be the most similar doppelgangers. The same exact hairpiece this time around. It would have been cool to see that recolored on Dogan. Maybe give him like white instead so it just seems like very different. But then of course the biggest difference is blue versus magenta. All of the other evil minifigures use white for their skin instead of yellow. So I think it's cool that because the base Logan isn't yellow, the evil Logan isn't white either, they went with magenta instead. But then if we take a look at the torso and the legs, there's so many similarities here. Dogan does have tears in his shirt, just like Madteo and Dizzy did. However, some of them do come from the original Logan. There is more on Dogan, like you can see these two scratch marks on the side that aren't here. But even like the scuff mark on the pants, that's already on the original minifigure, so that's really not a huge change. The original Logan uses like white for detailing, and that's been replaced with purple on Dogan. And then of course the Dream Chasers logo is replaced by the Neverwitch's symbol again. But then around the back, this is probably my favorite change of like all the Evil Dreams figures. Logan's wearing a jersey that says Monsters, and the logo looks to be like 3 scratch marks. So on Dogan, they got rid of that logo and replaced it with 3 actual scratch marks on his back, so you can just see his skin through there. That's such a smart way to change that, and seeing them side by side looks really cool. Another big difference is I believe Dogan's pants are meant to be completely torn off, like at the knee, because you can see on Logan, like the torso color matches the pants color, and on Dogan that's not the case. I will say it leaves Dogan looking a little bit awkward from the sides. Like, dual molding would have been perfect here, but obviously they can't do that on every single minifigure. But yeah, from the sides and back, he looks a little bit strange, but from the front, he looks just as good as normal Logan. And then a face print, honestly, I like both of these. Normal Logan has a bit of a mustache, which I find very weird. I don't believe that's appeared in the show yet at all. That's not present on Dogan, and he's got like this really evil smile with like the little vampire fangs. And then alternate faces are extremely similar when it comes to the expression. Logan's got some more lines on his face, like more defined cheekbones, and the eyebrow placement's a little different. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. So overall, if I had to pick between these, I'm not sure because they're very, very similar, and they both do things I like. I think I'd probably give it to normal Logan, but it's pretty close. I don't have super strong feelings one way or the other. Now we come to Zoey and her evil counterpart, Doey. Doey has to be the worst of these names. I know aside from Madteo, it's all just the name with a D in the front, but come on, Doey? Doey does not sound evil. Anyway, this Zoey figure is my absolute favorite figure of the first LEGO Dreamzzz wave, and still probably one of my favorites to this day. So I was very happy to see we were getting a new version inspired by it in Doey. And you can see she's wearing the same armor that the other two were, so I'm going to remove that for now so we can see her a little bit better. Right off the bat, big difference, purple hair versus magenta hair. I do wish there was a bit more of a change because those colors colors are very similar, but this is one of the like 3 colors they were using for hair, so it does make her fit in with the rest of the line. Obviously, skin color is different, yellow versus white. And we'll talk about the face print now, I guess. Zoey has like this really cool, confident expression, and she's got makeup on that's like metallic pink. That's one of the coolest details in this minifigure. It looks amazing. And you can see that's on her alternate face too. Doey, though, has a much more sinister, like lopsided smile. Her makeup's like solid purple, and it looks big, right? Like it doesn't look as good. No eyeshadow either, it's only on the lips. The alternate face is a little more neutral of an expression, and I actually think I like that one a little bit more. But now looking at the torso, again, very similar between these two. Zoey's got like this teal scarf at the top that Doey has too. However, on Doey, it's a little more scratched up and tattered, but it's not a big difference. Something I'm just noticing now that I didn't notice in my initial reviews. On the original Zoey, she's got like these leaves underneath everything, and I think those look amazing. And I thought these were just purple leaves on this one, but no, I'm pretty sure those are feathers, specifically raven feathers. Which, if so, that's a very cool, very subtle change. Because they do make them look very similar to the leaves, but yeah, you can see there's a distinctly different shape there. And the Neverwitch is all about ravens. Her army is like full of ravens. So replacing the leaves with raven feathers is incredibly smart, and honestly looks super cool too. Very subtle change, the torso itself on Zoey is dark blue, while on Doey it's black, and they both have gunmetal gray legs with printing on top of it. The colors definitely pop a lot more on Zoey. The lavender and the dark blue just pop more than black and purple do. And I'm pretty sure it's the exact same design for the feet and like the lower leg. Again, I think there's a few more little tears in there that aren't present on this figure, but all things considered very similar. And then flipping Zoey's cape piece up, there's a look at the back torso print. Again, very similar to the front. Scarf's more tattered, the leaves are feathers instead. But I think the biggest difference is that Doey doesn't have this cape piece. And because of that, this is very easy for me. I definitely prefer the original Zoey. Both figures are good, don't get me wrong, and Doey's probably one of my favorite of the doppelgangers, but the colors on this one just pop a lot more. Even the yellow of the skin complements the colors of the outfit really well. This is just an amazing minifigure in general, and while this one's good, it's just not to the same level. And finally, here are the last 2 minifigures for this video, though not the last comparison. We have Cooper and we have Dooper. Now, Cooper did come with a helmet in one set, however, I'm not including it here because it was only one set. Most other sets were just like this, and Dooper's clearly based off this version, so I don't think it's fair to compare it to the helmet version because that wasn't like his basic version. And Cooper's whole aesthetic is that he's like a race car driver. He was easily my least favorite figure of the first wave, so it's interesting to see this reimagined for Dooper. Of course, same armor piece that the others had, let me remove that, and there's a better look at the full torso print. They both use the Ninjago J hairpiece, though Cooper has it in bright yellow while Dooper has it in magenta. Both amazing parts, but when it comes to facial expressions, Dooper definitely wins out. Cooper's initial facial expressions, honestly, I don't think are good at all. Very weird expression on the front, kinda just like a confident, serious face. And then the alternate face, he's sleeping, which I guess makes sense for LEGO Dreamzzz, but none of the other main characters have a face like this. I wish we got more personality, more expression out of him. Dooper, though, has like a very serious, stern face on one side, and this wide smile on the other. Definitely a huge improvement. And then torso and leg print, again, honestly, I much prefer Dooper. These colors just feel like they work way better to me. Normal Cooper is just a little bit boring. It's red with a little bit of dark red, a little bit of black, a little bit of white. Nothing in that really pops or stands out to me. This, though, this is a huge change. Black's the base color this time around, and it's got magenta, gray, and yellow on top, and all of that comes together so nicely. Dooper's weirdly covered in, like, I guess this is paint, right? Like little paint splotches, and there's like a little X on. Not sure why that is, but it is a super cool look. It makes him look a lot less pristine and polished than Cooper, and again, brings more color into that outfit that it desperately needs. The Neverwitch symbol at the top looks great with like the magenta spikes coming out around it. Again, that was present on the original figure, but the dark red really just doesn't stand out too much. So despite being the same actual graphic, it looks very different on the new figure. However, on the flip side of that, this like checkered pattern that Cooper has on the side is probably one of the most eye-catching parts of that figure, and that was just changed to gray here, which I think was definitely a downgrade. If that was magenta or yellow instead, I think this figure would be even better, but I guess it's fine to have like the gray base with all the colors on top of it. And then another big difference is the belt. Cooper always had this blue belt in sets, and Dooper just does not come with that. That's a fairly easy customization to make. If you have like a LEGO Batman, you can give him a yellow belt, but I wish it came out of the box like that. I think that probably would have made this figure even better. It would have made him a better version of Cooper too. And here's a look at Cooper with the belt removed if you're curious. Overall, I don't have super strong feelings about either of these. Cooper's my least favorite figure from the first wave, and Dooper's probably my second least favorite, like, evil character of this wave. That being said, I think Dooper easily wins. He takes a very boring design and makes it somewhat interesting, and this hairpiece in magenta in general is just really awesome. So between the two, I definitely prefer this guy. And now, one final comparison to end this video off, we have the full-size Z-Blob build versus the full-size Doom Blob build. Z-Blob's, of course, his own little $20 set, while Doom Blob is one of the builds in the Neverwitch's Nightmare Creatures set. I won't be covering the full sets in this video, just the builds themselves, but I wanted to mention where they come from. In general, Z-Blob's design's like a lot more rounded and polished, and he seems like very high-tech and futuristic. Doom Blob on the hand's a little sharper, a little rougher, and he seems to be like more magic and nature-based. Z-Blob's got like these very tall boots for feet, with rounded toes to the shoes, while Doom Blob has sharp pointed toes, and like there's teeth coming off the back as well as a little claw on the side. It makes him feel like he's an amalgam of like natural parts. The legs, however, are exactly identical, just with colors swapped around. They both use these tube pieces and these newer joint pieces. Z-Blob's waist is again very smooth and sleek, don't have a ton to say about it. There is space for a Technic axle underneath, which is interesting, because despite that not being like a hugely visible part of Z-Blob, that is actually on Doom Blob too, which I don't know, I thought was some cool consistency. Doom Blob also has a little sticker here, and while there's a similar general design, again, as I said, everything's a little bit rougher. You have far more exposed studs, you have like these teeth coming up right here. These two are definitely not the same. Coming up to Doom Blob's torso, it's the Never Witch's Cauldron, and you can see her symbol's a stickered part in the center there. Doom Blob's head at the top can rotate around, and it sort of just pops out of here, right? There's not a ton of armor or bulk around it. Z-Blob, however, has a much more specialized design for his torso. He's got like a proper chest with bulk to it, and his arms are out a little bit further. Part of his head is actually hidden away too in the armor, and because of that, the entire thing feels more natural. He doesn't just feel plopped on top. Another thing is that Z-Blob has a point of articulation that Doom Blob does not have. You could swivel Z-Blob's waist a full 360. However, on Doom Blob, that's completely locked in place. The arms, however, just like the legs, are exactly the same in terms of build. Again, it's just colors swapped around. But Z-Blob uses one of the Ninjago SCCBS armor pieces here, and he uses like the classic robot arm pieces for fingers. There's Doom Blob's arms, which are of course black and magenta, and the hands are a little bit thinner because they don't use the full armor pieces. This magenta part could be like fur or feathers, and this hand has 3 fingers and they're like little claws. When it comes to weapons, Doom Blob holds like this magical goo sword in his left hand, while Z-Blob has like a goo blaster in his right hand instead. Again, sword versus gun contributes to the whole like natural versus unnatural thing, and even left hand versus right hand makes them different, though obviously the weapons can be swapped around if you want. And then finally on the back, Z-Blob has a little stud shooter where you can see the minifigure, namely Matteo, and that can be moved around and aimed a little bit. Doom Blob's back though is a lot more significant. He has these giant like raven wings, and these are beautiful, easily the best part of the build. Now I do think it's important to mention in the Z-Blob set, the alternate build does have a jetpack, so again that's the whole natural versus unnatural thing. If you have Z-Blob in his alternate build, you have a jetpack versus wings, so they can both fly in the air. But even if I had the alternate build together, the wings definitely look way cooler. There's how they look from the back too. They connect on mini ball joints that can be posed, and there's a sticker with some feathers on it too. So overall, between these two, I'm actually not sure which one I prefer. Z-Blob's definitely the better build, but I think Doom Blob has the cooler aesthetic. So I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably go with Z-Blob, but they're both honestly really good. And I love how similar they are while also contrasting a lot. It's really great to have both in my collection. And there we go, there is every single new Evil Doppelganger LEGO Dreamzzz minifigure and the original minifigures that they're based on. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this collection as a whole, and which figures from both sides are your favorites. Overall, between the two groups, I think I slightly prefer the original versions, but the evil versions are really good, and I'm so happy they exist. And it's just awesome to have these two side by side. Evil Doppelgangers are an amazing concept for the main villains of the wave, so I'm really glad we got them, and they went all out with these minifigures. If you want to see more about the sets that these guys come in, again, I have 4 reviews of all the LEGO Dreamzzz sets up right now on my channel, including all the alternate builds in the sets too. I'll have a playlist linked in the description or in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.